You slept 8 hours last night. You did nothing unusual today. No emergency, no crisis, no physical strain. And yet, by 3 p.m., you feel like you've been carrying furniture up 5 flights of stairs. Here's the detail almost no one questions. Your body wasn't the one working. Something else was, quietly, constantly, in the background, since the moment you woke up. What if cognitive overload, the anxious loop before hitting send on a text, and that heavy, unnamed tiredness in your chest are not 3 different problems? What if they're the exact same mechanism, wearing 3 different disguises? To understand why your mind refuses to switch off, we need to look at the one rule your brain has been running since long before you had a say in it. This isn't about laziness, and it isn't about being too sensitive. It's about how the human brain decides what deserves its attention and what it refuses to let go of. Every day, your mind is handling 3 kinds of open files at once. The practical kind, unanswered emails, unfinished chores, a decision you keep postponing. The social kind, a message you're not sure how to phrase, a conversation that ended a little too quickly, a tone you can't quite read. And the historical kind, old patterns your nervous system learned years ago, patterns that still run even when nothing dangerous is actually happening. Most people treat these as unrelated. They'll say, "I'm just busy" about the first, "I'm just anxious" about the second, and "I'm just wired that way" about the third. That separation is exactly why the exhaustion feels so confusing. You keep treating one condition as 3 different diagnoses. But your brain doesn't file these separately. It uses the same system to track all of them. And that system has one job: never let go of anything it has labeled unresolved. Here's the detail that changes how you see it. Psychologists have long observed something called the Zeigarnik effect, the finding that incomplete tasks occupy far more mental space than completed ones. Finish so everything seemed manageable. One email, one text, one small worry at a time. Until the pattern revealed something far more demanding underneath. Start with the most obvious piece: cognitive load. This is the total amount of information your mind is actively holding at once. Not just what you're doing right now, but everything you haven't finished yet. This meant thing, and your brain quietly closes the file. Leave it hanging and the file stays open, humming in the background, whether you're aware of it or not. Picture an ordinary morning. A notification arrives during breakfast. You glance, decide to answer later, and move on. An email needs a reply before lunch, so you draft half of it and get pulled away. A conversation with a family member ends mid-thought. None of these moments feel dramatic. None of them would show up if you listed your stressful events for the day. But each one is a file your brain refuses to close. And every time your attention jumps from one open file to another, from breakfast to the notification, to the email, to the conversation, neuroscientists call that task switching. It doesn't feel like multitasking is costing you anything. It feels efficient. But your brain isn't doing 2 things at once. It's stopping one thing completely and restarting another over and over. And that stopping and restarting has a price. A price paid quietly, all day, until it adds up to exactly the kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. This explains part of the exhaustion, but it doesn't explain why some people are drowning in open files that were never even theirs to close in the first place. Here is where the story goes deeper, and where your unique angle takes over.
Some people don't just carry unfinished tasks, they carry unfinished threat assessments. Ask yourself this: if cognitive load alone explained the tiredness, why do some people feel just as drained on a quiet day at home as they do during a chaotic day at work? The answer is that certain minds are running a second, invisible file system. one dedicated entirely to monitoring the emotional temperature of every room they enter, reading a tone of voice, measuring how much space they're allowed to take up, watching for the smallest shift that might mean something is about to go wrong. Most people who do this don't even notice they're doing it. It simply feels like being alive. But this kind of scanning isn't random, and it isn't a personality quirk. In many cases, it was built. In a childhood home where the emotional weather changed without warning. In a friendship that could turn cold overnight. In a relationship where affection came with quiet conditions attached. Somewhere in there, the nervous system reached a conclusion. Safety is not guaranteed. Stay alert. Don't miss the signs.